Chapter 6.3, still factoring. This time my leading coefficient is not 1, it's something other than 1. Again, we're going to practice the steps. We're in the chapter review on page 486. Let's start by looking at number 18. And it says 3x squared plus 17x plus 10, and I need to factor completely or state that the polynomial is prime. So again, let's write out the a, the b, and the c. Well, a is 3, b is 17, and c is 10. Alright, and then we're going to do the product and the sum. Well, the product is 3 times 10, and the sum is 17. So that is 30, and the sum is 17. So I have a product of 30 and a sum of 17. Then I need the factors of 30. And I have 1, 30, 2, 15, 3, 10. What else do we got? 5, 6. And of course I have negatives. But since my sum is positive, I'm going to ignore the negatives. Now let's see here. We want to pick out the factors of 30 that add to 17. It would be 2, 15. So this is just like before, except for now this is where it gets different. Once you pick out those factors, you must replace the middle term with those factors. So do not forget the x's on there. You're going to replace the middle term with those factors. So it's going to become 3x squared plus, now instead of 17x, it's going to be 2x plus 15x. And then don't forget to write out the rest of the problem, adding 10. So you're replacing the middle term with these factors, and do not forget the x. So I have 2x plus 15x, which is the same, 17x. Now this should remind you of grouping. Remember, grouping is always with 4 terms. Now you get to go back to the steps of grouping. Grouping said put the first 2 terms together, and then put the last 2 terms together. And then you look in the first group and see what they have in common. They have an x, so factor it out. Look in the second group, what do they have in common? They have a 5, so factor it out. And remember, your goal is to end up with the same parentheses. Once you have the same parentheses, you also factor them out, scribble them out, they go away, and who is left? X plus 5. And that is factored completely. Great, let's move on. Number 21. So let's see what we have here. 5y squared plus 11y plus 4. So let's do the same thing. Let's write the a, the b, and the c. So a is 5, b is 11, and c is 4. The product is going to be a times c, and the sum is just b. So a times c, well, that's 5 times 4, which is 20, and the sum is 11. So then you get to write out the factors of 20, and we have 1, 20, 2, 10, what else? 4, 5. And then, of course, the negatives. But since the sum is positive, again, I'm not concerned with the negatives. Now I want to pick from the factors of 20 that add to 11. Well, this guy adds to 21, he adds to 12, and he adds to 9. None of these add to 11, so again, this polynomial is prime. It cannot be factored. Great. Last one, let's look at number 22. We have negative 8x squared minus 8x plus 6. Alright, so the first thing you should automatically notice is when you look at this polynomial, each term has something in common. And remember, the leading coefficient's negative. He has to be positive, which means off the bat, you know your GCF is going to have the negative in there. Now, what's the largest factor between 8, 8, and 6? I believe it's 2, so factor out negative 2, and the smallest exponent is 0. So I'm just going to factor out negative 2. So this is going to become negative 2, and then open up your parentheses, Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. The x squared is still there. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 again is positive 4. The x is there. And then positive 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. Great. So now I'm going to factor just the piece inside the parentheses. So I need the a, the b, and the c. Well, the a is 4, the b is 4, and the c, negative 3. So your product is 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. Your sum is b, which is 4. Alright, so now we have factors of negative 12. Let's see what our factors of negative 12 are going to be. We have 1 comma negative 12, negative 1 comma 12, negative 2 comma 6, 2 comma negative 6, 3 comma negative 4, negative 3 comma 4. Great. Now out of all these factors, which ones add to positive 4? It would be negative 2, positive 6. Okay, so remember we're replacing this piece right here. Once you find the factors, the middle term becomes those factors. So I have 4x squared. Now instead of writing plus 4x, I'm going to write minus 2x plus 6x minus 3. And again, once you have 4 terms, it's remind you of grouping. You want to put your first 2 terms together. So I have 4x squared minus 2x plus, put your last 2 terms together. Look at your first 2 terms and see what they have in common. Well, it looks like they have a 2x. So I'm going to have 2x minus 1 plus the last 2 terms have a 3 in common, and I have 2x minus 1. Again, the parentheses are the same, so it's like you're factoring out the parentheses, and the 2x minus 1 comes out, which means you can now scribble it. Scribble it out, and what am I left with? 2x plus 3. And now do not forget the negative 2 was on the outside, so don't forget to bring him down. And that is factor. Alright, that is chapter 6.3. Let me know if you have any questions.